Hello and welcome. I hope you're safe and well. Today's exciting episode, I make a jacket that's gold.
It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket.
So I bought this tweed from Mood Fabrics in New York City years and years ago, and I could never decide whether to use the gold side or the silver side. So I'm going with the gold side. I've actually bought two bits, so I'll do a silver one later, but today we're doing the gold. So it's a tweed, and tweed doesn't have much structural integrity, so I'm going to put a structural layer and I'm going to use netting. And so I cut out all the pieces of the jacket. My favorite jacket pattern is Vogue 7975, but this is a discontinued McCall's one. It's got a few drafting errors in it, so I won't recommend it. I definitely recommend the Vogue 7975, but I literally have 100 of those. So I'm going to do this one because it's a little bit baggier. So I cut out all the pieces in netting. It's the kind of netting, the stiff netting that you make a 1950s petticoat out of. You can get it from Joann's, any really big fabric store. It's quite cheap, but it's incredibly useful. So I cut out all the pieces, I machine sewed them together. I would recommend that you splay the seam allowance and hand stitch it down, but I was running really late, so I machined, and I've got a sturdy vintage machine, so I machine sewed mine, but it does make the seams a little bit corset-like, which isn't ideal. I'm going to do heavy beading on mine, so it's okay, but I really recommend that you hand stitch you splay them open and hand stitch them down. Anyway, now that the shell is made, I sewed the three back pieces together, and I sewed the two front left and the two front right together. So I've got the jacket torso or bodice in a shell, and I'm pinning it to the tweed. So first you pin the center panel because that's the flat one. The shape is made by the princess seams. So piece 1 and piece 3, not the center piece, which is piece 2. So you pin the flat one down first, and then because tweed is such a loosely woven fabric, you can sort of coax the other pieces into place, but you really have to pin the straight ones first. So when you've done the back, which is it, because it's the biggest piece, it's kind of the easiest. The front left and the front right are a little bit more fiddly, but once again, the center front pieces are the ones you have to pin first. They're the flat ones, and then the mold of the bust is created through the princess seam and the roundedness of the side panels. So yeah, you just pin them down, and then normally I hand stitch the backing fabric to the tweed, but this is a really thin tweed and it's metallic, so it's very different than a normal tweed. It's more like foil, or it's kind of like a baking, I don't know, it's really weird. So people are always asking me if you can machine sew 2 layers tweed to the backing fabric. Personally, no, I do not recommend it. Most people do not have a good enough sewing machine. Like if you've got a really sturdy vintage machine, one of the metal ones, then you can maybe, but the point of these jackets is to hand sew. So yeah, if machine sewing's your thing, I'm not sure why you're making a hand finished jacket, but each to their own. Anyway, I was running really late, so I did do the machine sewing of the seams on this one, and yeah, not a fan. I don't like it, but at least now I can point people to this video because I do get a lot of people saying, I've got this super expensive machine, I have to use it on everything. No, you don't. You didn't have to buy it, and you don't have to use it on everything. I started when I was 4, I started hand sewing, and I didn't use a sewing machine until I was in high school. So I don't get the fuss about machines. I don't have an overlocker, but each their own. Anyway, so I sewed all the original bits together, and now it's time to sew them together at the shoulders. So I sewed them together at the shoulders, the front and the back together at the shoulders. And once I'd done that, I sewed the seam allowance, and once I'd done that, I sewed the sides and sewed down the seam allowance as well. So now that the torso is one whole thing, I'll just turn it out the correct way. Yeah, I did use my sewing machine to do the seam allowances. I don't recommend it, but I mean, this is what it looks like if you want to know. You can see the machine sewing. So I don't like it, but each their own. So once you've done the torso, the final thing you have to do is the neckline. So once again, I machine sewed the actual neckline, and then I clipped the curve, and then I folded the seam allowance back, and then I hand stitched that. There's no way I'm machine top stitching a neckline. I just can't do it. So, I just hand stitched that round twice. And then now that the torso is ready, I put that on the mannequin, and I've done the sleeves. So the big bit is the upper sleeve, the little bit is the undersleeve, and I've machine sewn them together on one side, on the long side. And then because I just did one side, I was able to machine sew the seam allowance back on each side. It creates a really, really stiff seam. I don't like it, but this is what it looks like. If you don't mind what your jacket feels like, then it's fine. But in my opinion, it creates too much stiffness. Like when you hand stitch the seam allowance back, you just have this really natural, soft seam line. Like you still have the machine, like the actual seam line is machine sewn, but you don't have it reinforced on either side. You just have a natural seam line. I guess it's each their own, but yeah. I don't know, I did it, and now look how stiff these sleeves are. They just sit out by themselves. They, I mean, it's a weird tweed. It's a metallic, so it's kind of wiry anyway. But, it's basically round. Normally, the tweed is so dense that it sort of sits flat. Anyway, so we've got the torso of the jacket and we've got the sleeves. So now it's time to set the sleeves. I think I have a shot of the jacket on the mannequin. Yeah, here it is. So it's a weird fabric, but it looks good. I'm starting to think about what sort of beading I'm going to do on it. I always assumed I would do gold beads, but now I've done the Egyptian tweed, I haven't finished it. I'm still doing it. And if this hadn't been so successful and so exactly what I wanted it to be, then I'd think, I should do another gold on gold to try and get it right. But I'm just so really happy with that one. Anyway, so it's time to set the sleeves. So there's notches. So I pinned the top center, bottom center, and then the notches, and then I filled in the bottom 2/3, and then I just the top third is the tricky bit, so I did that last and just took my time and got it right. Then I machine sewed it again to reinforce, and then once you've done that, you just check that there's no puckers or gathers or like anything's caught or anything like that. Then you clip the curves or the underarm, and then you tuck the seam up into the sleeve and you hand stitch it once from the outside. Then I turn it over and I hand stitch it again from the inside. A lot of people on Instagram, sewers on Instagram and YouTube, complain that the sleeves fall off their jackets. I do the hand finishing and none of my jackets have ever fallen apart. So I really do think it's worthwhile to take the time to hand stitch your sleeves into place. And here we go. It's actually a lot more formal than I thought it would be. I'm glad I did the way of the tweed. I was Originally when I bought it, I assumed I would just do it vertical, but I've done the lines horizontal and I really like it. But it does look very formal, and yeah, I'm not sure you're going to wear gold to a business meeting. I suppose it's appropriate. I hadn't thought about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just different than I thought it would be. I like it, but it's more grown up than I thought it would be. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it now. And I'm not sure that gold on gold. I suppose I've got jackets that I made a year or a year and a half ago that I still haven't beaded. So I can just add this to the end of the queue, I suppose. But I still like to think about how I'm going to bead it. So it is really nice. It's just very formal. I don't know. It's throwing me off a little bit. I guess I'll get out the gold beads, some of the leftovers from the Egyptian tweed, and because I was a little bit generous when I made that bead mix, so I'm going to have a lot of them left over anyway. Plus, I guess I could do one without on the Egyptian tweed. Every second one is a stack of sequins, and there's 2 sequins and 2 beads in there. And then there's a big bead, then there's another stack, then there's a big bead, then there's another stack. So if I made this one, I could just do beads, not any stacks, because oh my gosh, those sequin stacks, they take forever to do. And I've also got some blue beads. I like the idea of gemstones. So you do a big bead and then you do little beads around it, and it looks like an antique brooch or a ring, a really bling piece of jewellery, and you just do those all dotted around the jacket. So I do like that idea, and then sort of in between them some just plain blue beads. I like blue and like the sapphires on gold look. I think that's beautiful. But I think they look better on the sequin fabric, like that real true gold, whereas this jacket that I've just made, it looks more antique gold. So it looks like an antique, whereas this one looks hilariously bling. I love it. It's very Milan Fashion Week. And you can really see the hole in the middle of that round one, can't you? I like the round one better on the antique gold because you can't see the hole through the middle of the bead quite so much. But the rest of them, I think they look fabulous on that yellow gold, the true gold. Whereas, so I don't know. And I feel like this jacket that I just made, the antique one, looks a little bit too much like the Egyptian tweed. Not really, but it's not as good as it. But it's the same genre. So I've got my khaki and olive beads, but I kind of want to use them on something else. I kind of know what I want to use them on. But gold and khaki do look beautiful together. They look really beautiful together. So my idea with these beads is to use the stone ones around the cuffs and the neckline as sort of bright, big details, and then use the smaller pebble size ones on the body of the jacket. And as I said, I've got 2 lots of this. The other one I'm going to use the silver side. So I'm just thinking I'm going to use silver pins and brass safety pins on that one. Only I just pin them into the tweed and they don't look very good. I think I'm going to have to sew them on top rather than actually pin them in, which is a bit weird. So I don't know what I'm going to use on this. I actually really like the mix of gold beads, but not using any of the gold sequins. I think because I love the bright gold on this Egyptian tweed. I think they just add so much texture and depth and character. But I think on this one, if I kept them all antique and sort of, that aged gold look, I think maybe I would like that. Maybe. I'm not sure. Oh, and then I decided that maybe as well as the sapphires, I should add some emeralds and rubies in there, but I couldn't find them. So these are sort of magenta red beads, as well as those teal ones that I had just lying around. But I'd get out the emerald coloured beads. And that one's going to look fabulous. It looks like something from Chanel from the 80s or 90s. And then I just got out those turquoise beads. They're solid glass, those round ones. They're amazing. And then I've got some plastic smaller ones as well. But I've got quite a lot of aqua and turquoise coloured beads. And then, I don't know. I just love these khaki ones, but I think I'm going to have to use them on the other tweed. I just thought of it because the other tweed I'm going to use them on is a Marc Jacobs one. So, and then I have this weird mix. It was originally for a different tweed, a Chanel tweed in vanilla and fluoro colours, but I just wanted to see what it looks like on this. Actually, I think it looks better on the bright gold than it does on the antique gold, but that's definitely interesting. Doesn't this look cute? I mean, I'm pretty much married to the idea of the gemstones on this bright gold, but that also looks interesting. I also have a sort of silver, very bright silver sequin fabric, so I'm shopping around for something to put on those as well. I was going to put these aqua and teal ones, aqua and green ones on there, but no, I'm not sure. Oh, and then I just mix these ones together. So it's the olive, khaki, those teal little plastic ones with the gold, as well as all the blues. And I love this mix. I don't know what for, but I absolutely love it. Anyway, I made the jacket. I don't really have any idea of how I'm going to bead it, but yeah, that's how you make a jacket. And yeah, it is faster when you machine sew a few seams and a few bits of seam allowance down, but yeah, not for me. I'm going to stick to doing it by hand, but at least I did it once to try it. So thank you very much for watching. That's about it for this year. I hope it's been a good one for you, and I hope next year brings you all you wish for, as long as it's good things. And yeah, in 2024, I'm making a bunch of new jacket patterns that I've never made before. So I'm kind of dreading that, but it'll be awesome once they're done. And I'm also going to keep making my standard vintage style Chanel jackets and some, Karl Lager era Chanel jackets too. And beading. Next year there's going to be loads and loads of beading. Beading is awesome. Happy sewing.